Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Darnell, the Playmaker Silence, and me and Dallas, we are back again to talk another edition of college football, and this one we're talking about the Big 12. And you know who won the Big 12 last year? Kyler Murray, Oklahoma Sooners. They won the Big 12. They went into the playoffs. They got beat by Alabama. But Kyler Murray's in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is at Oklahoma. So is Oklahoma's conference to lose again? Somebody might think this might be Texas' turn. Texas might be that. What about TCU, West Virginia, Iowa State, Oklahoma State? We're going to dive into the Big 12, and we're going to see if it's really Oklahoma's to lose, or it's going to be some roadblocks in the head. So sit back, relax, put a YouTube video in the background, whatever you need to do to listen to your podcast, because now we're talking to the Big 12. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Playmakers Bar Podcast, College Football Edition. Alongside with me is Dallas Glenn. How you doing?
I'm doing good, doing great. We are almost there, Darnell.
You're almost there. Big 12. Well, Oklahoma for sure. Jalen Hurts, most likely the quarterback. I know Lincoln Riley's playing it close to the best, but we kind of think it'll be Jalen Hurts. Texas had a great season last year. Can never count out Oklahoma State, Iowa State. West Virginia did good, but they have a new quarterback. We'll see who that person will be. But Dallas, Big 12.
Yes. What would you like to know from me, good brother?
Whatever you got. It's the Big 12.
All right, so the Big 12, as usual, had a lot of talent going in the NFL draft, namely another quarterback who just so happened to win the Heisman going number one. With that being said, you would think, Darnell, that Oklahoma, lightning can't strike but so many times. Oklahoma, who was the front runner, has basically been a real shotgun spread them out team. They've been able to have a run game, but the run game really goes off the passing game when those lanes open up. Here is the interesting thing. Baker Mayfield was at Texas Tech before he got to Oklahoma. And Kyler Murray, they said the school. It was a spread school. I can't remember which school he went to before he transferred. But Kyler Murray, it was apparent that he was a perfect fit.
I think he was at Texas Tech too.
Well, okay, so that would mean that somehow, some way, the guy who's coaching the Cardinals effed up with Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, and Patrick Mahomes. But that's completely different story. I think we'll get into that next week. But so here is the thing, Darnell, and here is why I am not really surprised at what happened with the Twitter. Jalen Hurts is a game manager. But here's the thing with game managers. Game managers doesn't always mean that they just hand off the ball and throw it short. If that's the kind of offense you run, okay. But a game manager can also be take what the defense gives you. Now, Oklahoma has also had a lot of wide receiver talent come through. D. Westbrook in 2017, I want to say. So the 2016 season, I think he was the Blitnikoff winner. And they've always had a receiver that's in the competing for the top wide receiver awards. Jalen Hurts is going to have the weapons. That's not the problem. The problem is, can they replace the tackle they have lost? Can they replace the tackle that I think went to Buffalo? Can they replace Orlando Brown Jr. from a couple years ago? Can they keep replacing these quarterback tackle combos over and over and over and over and over again? Because here's the thing, Darnell. The Big 12, you basically have to have a clean sheet once you hit the conference. The Big 12 isn't going to have a lot of weapons on the defensive side that can really give Jalen Hurts a run for his money. I don't know if the SEC defenses, which pretty much make every quarterback look human. We haven't had like a top flight superstar quarterback come out of the SEC for a while that we actually projected to go to the NFL and succeed, because Johnny Manziel and Tim Tebow were superstars, but they weren't projected to go to the NFL and succeed. But see, Jalen Hurts is basically, it's a clean slate. He's going to a school that clearly knows how to coach quarterbacks. He's going to a school that knows how to cycle through talent, and he's going to a conference that doesn't play a lot of defense. Texas, over time, even though we have been paying attention to Texas a lot of their talent that ends up getting drafted, defense. A lot of their talent that ends up going to the NFL as of late, defense. So what you have to think about is it's a two-team race right now. It's Texas and Oklahoma. And even still, Oklahoma's quarterback, while he might not be a pure light-em-up spread quarterback, has only played in 6 or 7 New Year's Six / BCS bowl games. I think it's Texas, Oklahoma. I think that's what we're looking at for the Big 12 championship game. I want to say that maybe West Virginia and TCU, because of stability, are going to be the ones to be kind of disruptive. Oklahoma State is going to depend. Oklahoma State is maybe too stable. I think maybe they've bought into we're a college that has a popular football team, not that we're a popular football team that happens to play in the college arena. So that's what I got on it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So, as you can probably tell, we probably don't spend too much time on the Big 12. So let's just go ahead and just get to the schedule, shall we, Dallas? Which team you want to start with first? Because you threw about 5, 6.
Oh, well, let's get the fun one out the way. Let's go to Kansas. Let's see who Kansas is going to lose to this season.
Okay, Kansas. Let me go find Kansas.
I know that threw a loop for you, didn't it? Because, hell.
For a loop. Matter of fact, you find Kansas. I got Iowa State schedule right here.
Oh, snap! I got the whole calendar right here. I want to go to a conference, but I'll go to their website. Go ahead.
Iowa State, pretty much they play pretty much their first 2 games is the battle for Iowa. They play Iowa, Illinois. They have a bye week, and then they play Iowa. So it's like Northern Iowa and Iowa. So who's gonna win state?
Well, yeah.
Louisiana Monroe. So their first 3 games, they could be either from 1-2 or 2-1. And then they get into the conference schedule at Baylor, TCU, at West Virginia, at Texas Tech, home to Oklahoma before they have a bye week, and then at OU, home to Texas, and then finish off at Kansas State. Do we like their chances?
I mean, I don't hate them. Iowa State, there was a scenario in week 10 or 9 where Iowa State had a chance. So I don't think the chances are horrible.
So, okay, so before their second bye week, which would be week 10, that would be at the beginning of November, Iowa at Baylor, TCU at West Virginia, at Texas Tech, Oklahoma State.
That's a good stretch because here's the thing that we have to realize. The Pac-12 has a lot of catching up to do. The Big Ten is, not flashy, but the Big 12 is still probably the worst of the 5. The Big 12 is the one that there was no way in hell they were going to get into the playoff unless they made a conference championship game. It was not enough to just be the Big 12 champion, to just be the best. So, it all depends on how are they walking in from the first half of the season.
And remember, they don't have the division, so it's the top 2 teams play each other.
Dude, if Iowa State's 6 and because the first half of the schedule, rattle that off again. The key games from the first half.
Iowa at Baylor, TCU at West Virginia, at Texas Tech, Oklahoma State.
You have to think because they're going to play Texas and Oklahoma later in the season, right? You got to think, dude. If you're walking in with a good record from that stretch, you could drop one of those games at Texas or Oklahoma, and you're looking at a New Year's Six bowl, aren't you? A 2-loss team from the Big 12, and they beat either Oklahoma or Texas. That can get them a New Year's Six bowl, especially if they beat Iowa. That can get them a New Year's Six bowl. Now, do I think that if they were to somehow win the Big 12, they would make the playoff? I don't think so. I think Iowa State doesn't have that cachet. even though they've been a member of a Power 5 conference or BCS conference for like forever now. But I can definitely see them being that Washington State if they do good with that schedule. Because let's be honest, I mean, the Big 12 is top heavy, and it's kind of like the AFC South. It's top heavy inside the conference. But when you look at the rest of the country, there's only 2 teams that like really can compete. So they have a shot.
You got Kansas
Yeah.
schedule?
It's I mean, Kansas, I'll put it to you like this, Darnell. If Kansas were to do the miraculous and win the Big 12, they might not even get an at-large bid. Their first 2 games are against Indiana State and Coastal Carolina. That right there is like, when you're Kansas and you have the reputation that you do, when you open up with 2 weak games like that back-to-back, and those are your not like their non-conference games are Indiana State, Coastal Carolina, Boston College, and that's it. They open up with Boston College, Coastal Carolina, Indiana State. Boston College isn't complete ass, but at the same time, it's like, I don't see confidence in your team when you make a schedule like this. And the AD should not be confident in his team. After the non-conference non-conference slate, they go to West Virginia. They host West Virginia. They host West Virginia. They go to TCU. They host Oklahoma, then the first bye week. Coming off that first bye week, it's at Texas. Texas Tech for their homecoming. Kansas State in the rivalry game. They're hosting Kansas State, second bye week. Then it's Oklahoma State, at Iowa State, hosting Baylor. So, I mean, the problem is they're opening up with 2 cupcake games. If you lose one of those cupcake games, it's a wrap, no matter what else you do. No matter what else you do, Iowa State losing to Purdue, a conference rival, a Power 5 conference rival on the road, basically ended their season. We all knew. Huh?
Is that Les Miles coaching now?
Which one?
Is Les Miles coaching Kansas?
I want to say so. Yeah, he's coaching at Kansas. But here's the thing, like, dude, Kansas has had Charlie Weiss, like, right after Notre Dame. Kansas hasn't had sorry coaches. I think Kansas is Kansas. I think it's one of those things where, here's the weird thing, Darnell. And, this is the journalist coming. I'm going to break it down for you. Kansas has a very good junior college system when it comes to athletics. It's Kansas, Iowa, Mississippi, California, and weirdly, Georgia, even though Georgia only has like a military junior college and like a prep school. There's only a handful of states.
And how many seasons has Kansas had?
No, that's what I'm getting into. They don't recruit well, and they have a pool of talent. Not just the high school kids that are staying in state. They're getting former 4, 3, 5-star recruits. They either didn't have the grades or just needed to mature. That's a euphemism. Or just needed to mature. And you have all this in your backyard, and Kansas hasn't been able to get this talent. Kansas hasn't been able to go to Mississippi. Kansas hasn't been able to get the transfers. At this point, I don't think Kansas is a brand that is going to get ESPN top 300 recruits. And if they do, they're going to be at like the bottom of the list that just want to stay close to family. They have to start relying on transfers. They have to start relying on the Tate Martells, the Kelly Bryants, the JUCOs, the Cam Newtons, the Baker Mayfields. Like, they got to start relying on transfers. And the thing is, until Kansas starts making some splashes in the JUCO and transfer portal department, I don't think it matters to the coaches, Darnell.
I'm going to be I'm surprised they spent this much time on Kansas. That was being very generous to y'all Jayhawk fans. Because me personally, y'all was never in the race anyway.
I mean, just so you know, it's okay. Somebody understands why you guys are the assiest of all the ass. I know. I get it. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you share this on Twitter to your friends, because nobody else is talking about y'all this season.
Anyway, I'm going to go to Oklahoma State. So you was talking about non-conference. They come out 3 straight non-conference games at Oregon State, McNeese, at Tulsa.
I see that.
So I want to say 3-0, to be honest. Because who is actually Oregon State?
Yeah, at this point, it's like, Oh, see, here's the thing. Here's the crazy thing, Darnell. You want to talk about consistency and talk about, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. It doesn't matter who the wide receivers are. It doesn't matter who the tackle is. It doesn't. Dude, Oklahoma State, it's weird. They're like the Buccaneers from last year in the NFL, where it's like, they're going to put up passing yards. They're going to put up 40. And the crazy thing is, like, Darnell, they seem to put up 40 against anybody. Like, they seem to be able to score against, like, just about anybody. I think
problem with this conference.
And that's the wildest thing, because it's almost like Mike Grundy knows. I wonder what their practices are like. I honestly wonder what the culture is like at Oklahoma State, because it's almost like Mike Grundy knows he has to put up at least 40 just to win by a field goal. That defense has been atrocious. That defense has been a wet paper towel from the dollar store, one ply. Like, dude, it's crazy how they always have one of the best offenses in college football, and they're playing in some December bowl game in Birmingham or something.
Now, if y'all go back to the bowl season, I can't remember all the bowl season games for the Big 12, but if they scored 30 to 40, most likely they won that bowl game, no matter who they played.
And that's what makes the Big 12 so weird. Darnell, I think that people on the East Coast would either say the Pac-12 or the Big X. But out of all the conferences, when you look at just the depth and the strength and the who against who, dude, the Big 12 is the worst conference. The problem is they play all these weak-ass bowl games against these group of 5 teams or against these, like, bottom seller Power 5 teams, and they look great. So other
when Oklahoma went up against Alabama, they didn't even meet the 3-touchdown quota, Darnell. They didn't even meet the 3-touchdown quota. I mean, but if the Big 12 team get the 30,
the Big 12 team gets the 30. They're just warming up. They just turn the key in the ignition. They just put the seatbelt on. They get 30. And when they get the 30.
So back to the Cowboys schedule after those 3 games. The next 3, because they don't have a bye week to week 7, at Texas, K-State, at Texas Tech. Come off that bye week, home to Baylor, at Iowa State, TCU, then another bye week. And then they finish it off Kansas, at West Virginia, home to Oklahoma. They are hosting Bedlam. Bedlam would be in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And I'm pretty for the night game.
It's weird because we're talking about Baylor while not talking about Baylor. Have you realized that? Have you noticed that? Like, we're giving Baylor a lot of credit. We're saying Baylor's name like it means something. But does it right now?
I try to get their coaching change on the wraps.
Because it's Baylor right now is just basically the generic Big 12 team, same as Texas Tech. With them losing the coach that had them bowl eligible every year and had seemingly had all this quarterback talent. I mean, it kind of makes you wonder, like, he left to get an NFL job. He wasn't really – well, no. He left to go to USC. Then he left to go to the Arizona Cardinals. So he really left for greener pastures and better opportunities. I mean –
But especially for Oklahoma State, at Texas Tech, at Iowa State, at West Virginia, Bedlam. That's five games right there.
It's weird because when I'm looking at all the other teams, I'm looking at West Virginia's schedule right now, and I mean NC State, Missouri, James Madison. That's the non-conference schedule. I've noticed that the Big 12, they don't like to play any games. I've noticed that they like to get their non-conference schedule over as soon as possible. They don't want to be like the Alabamas and like the teams who have like playoff chances. They're not trying to pad their resume by having non-conference games late in the season. The Big 12 is just trying to walk in 2-1 or 3-0 and get to Texas or Oklahoma as soon as possible. Because, I mean, Missouri, they just lost their 4-year starter to the NFL. NC State.
Matter of fact, Kelly Bryant is injured from last time I checked.
And even then, I mean, like, dude, he's going from the ACC to the SEC, and he's a transfer. So really what that is, let's just call a spade a spade. He's trying to have a good 1-year stat line, 2,800 plus yards, 20 plus touchdowns, 9 or less interceptions, and be, hopefully a second-day draft pick.
So, so I'm going to go ahead. They might lose that game. And it's at Missouri, by the way.
Yeah, because it all depends. Because, if Kelly Bryant's not playing, that means that some dude that's been waiting in the wings is going to play. And that actually might be more dangerous for West Virginia than if Kelly Bryant plays.
Only NC State, they might catch that one.
Yeah, they're going to catch NC State. Because NC State has a defense, but they don't have the offense. I think we were saying that last year when we were debating some game NC State was about to play.
So they could be at the best 3-1.
Oh, yeah. At bye week in Kansas. Hey, my birthday.
And then you got Texas, Iowa State, at Oklahoma for your next 3 or 4 other bye weeks. So that second stretch is probably going to be
but
the
that's the thing, though. That's why I think West Virginia has a great schedule if you're a Big 12 team. You play an SEC team. You play an ACC team. You play an in-conference opponent that's ass. Then you do Texas, Iowa State, Oklahoma. Those are the other 3 teams that probably have a shot. Besides Oklahoma, those are 3 teams that probably have a shot. Then you play Oklahoma State late in the season. So if Oklahoma State's still in the running, you get a chance to get that tiebreaker. It's actually a great schedule because they get Texas and Oklahoma early. If you lose, you're done anyway. But if you win, if you find a way to get through that stretch and your only losses are to an SEC team in Oklahoma or Texas, it can't be Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma or Texas and an SEC team, like I said, dude, if you're not Oklahoma, you're not getting a playoff bid. Texas isn't going to get a playoff bid if they win the Big 12 unless they go undefeated. So if you're talking about being in the Big 12, West Virginia has a great schedule. They have an SEC and an ACC opponent on there.
Baylor at Baylor, Texas Tech at Kansas, Oklahoma State, and at TCU. Yeah, they're gonna definitely need one of those games between Oklahoma and Kansas.
but here's the thing though, one, they just need one. Dude, but after last year, I think it has to be Texas. I don't think Oklahoma, unless Jalen Hurts is literally winning the Heisman and it's not even close, unless it's so far apart that Jalen Hurts is the only guy getting invited to New York, I don't think Oklahoma is going to get that cachet if they win the Big 12, especially if they drop a game to somebody, anybody. If they lose a game, the Big 12 is not going to the playoff. So really now you're looking at who's going to get the at-large.
So if you like the way West Virginia's schedule looks, then you're going to hate how TCU's schedule looks.
Well, Texas Christian.
They play some team, UAPB, that should win that one, but they got a bye week after that.
They play Arkansas Pine Bluff? Mm-hmm. Oh, God.
They got a bye week 2. So they don't even play in week 2. At Purdue, SMU, Kansas, Iowa State.
Oh, that schedule's atrocious. I mean, dude, if you lose.
They had a second bye week on October 12th, and then they got to run off at Kansas State, Texas, at Oklahoma State, Baylor, at Texas Tech, at Oklahoma, home to West Virginia.
They didn't do themselves. See, here's the weird thing about TCU. TCU is a good program. TCU, their head coach has been there. TCU, they haven't had, ever since Andy Dalton and Marcus Cannon left, they haven't been the same, but they've had talent. They've been good. They've been competitive. I don't think they did themselves any favors scheduling a FCS, HBCU, Purdue, and SMU as their non-conference opponents. It goes back to what I said before. The Big 12 likes to get stuff out the way. They like to get all them formalities out the way and get down to business. And if there was a way that somehow, some way, everybody finished with the same amount of wins and the same amount of losses, TCU, there is no way in hell their SOS is going to match up to when you schedule a SMU and an Arkansas Pine Bluff, what are you trying to accomplish? Because if you do F up and win the Big 12, they're going to see that you beat Purdue, SMU, and Arkansas Pine Bluff. And they're going to look at everybody else's resume and say, I guess the Big 12 ain't going to the playoff this year. Now, granted, have we talked about Oklahoma's schedule yet? Because I don't even know who their non-conference is besides.
Nope. I say I'm in Texas for last. So you want to go Oklahoma then Texas or Texas?
Let's go Oklahoma because Texas is going to have A, a better schedule than Oklahoma, and B, beat Oklahoma. So let's see what Oklahoma.
Boy, for Oklahoma at home against Houston.
Somebody's going to score a point. It's a hot take. We'll write it down. Somebody's going to score a point.
So then South Dakota comes in. Not the South Dakota State, South Dakota. So that's a W. LA, week 3. So for Oklahoma, before their first bye week, they probably can get rid of one of the major Group of 5 teams out the way.
I hate that South Dakota game. You could,
and then they can keep on ruining Chip Kelly second tenure as a college coach.
I mean, you easily could have scheduled a Sun Belt team. I'm just not with the whole who. When you're in the Big 12, and I look at a school in your schedule and I say who, because we all know what the end game is, Darnell. The Big 12 got shellacked. Hold on. How many national title games in the CFP era has the Big 12 played in?
That's a good question. I know Oklahoma got beat by Florida. In fact, by Florida. Texas beat USC, Vince Young days, the good days.
Yeah, but see, that's BCS. I'm talking about in the playoff.
In the playoffs. Matter of fact, they never made it to the championship game. Oklahoma. It's really been just Oklahoma already because Oklahoma ran into Alabama.
See, that one year, Baylor played in the Cotton Bowl. That was the Cotton Bowl, and the Cotton Bowl wasn't in the playoff rotation that year. Texas beat the hell out of Georgia. But it wasn't a national championship game. Oklahoma got the hell out of Alabama. So, yeah, they've never played in a college football playoff national championship game. Which means it's because
the only team from that conference that's been in the playoffs is Oklahoma.
But at the same time, though, a Pac-12 team hasn't played in the championship game either, or have they? Was it Oregon, Ohio State that played, or was it FSU, Ohio State that played?
All 3 of them. Alabama, Oregon, FSU, Ohio State.
No.
Ohio State took Alabama.
I just remember one play where Jason threw a duck, a hell of a duck. It was a meme for like a year. So, yeah, the Pac-12 has played in a college football playoff championship. The Big Ten has played in the college football playoff championship. The SEC has played. The ACC has played. Independent got in the playoff. In the Big 12, they're still scheduling FCS schools in their non-conference when they're not even getting out the first round.
I mean, you gotta have some type.
Well, no, because Texas listened. Because we know who the hell Oklahoma's going to play after their non-conference. I mean, look, we know. We've basically actually said their schedule on accident throughout the entire podcast. Texas's first 3 games, though: Louisiana Tech, LSU, Rice. Louisiana.
They are always playing Rice. They forever playing Rice.
Like right there. But dude, here's the thing: Rice, CUSA, Louisiana Tech, CUSA. LSU, SEC West. I know who these teams are. Louisiana Tech, even though nobody cares about Louisiana Tech, just had the sack leader, the career sack leader leave the school. Louisiana Tech has had somebody relevant on the national picture. Rice, they've had good wide receivers. When I look at Rice, Louisiana Tech, are those going to be easy wins? Yes. But I don't look at those games and think money game. When
I have one problem. At least Oklahoma's going to a team. They ain't going to nobody. Everybody got to come to them.
LSU is going to play some Big 12 team that beat the hell out of an SEC East team. Do you really think that just because they're going to Texas, that gives Texas an advantage? They just beat the hell out of a team that played in the national championship game a couple years ago. You really think that they're going to be like LSU's on notice? This is just as big of a game for LSU as it is for Texas. So it doesn't matter where the game is played. Now Texas has the great honor of hosting a team from the SEC West that before week 5 is always a national championship contender. Texas is the one that needs everything in their favor to win that game, not LSU. Texas is going to need turnovers. Texas is going to need luck. LSU is coming off of saving the major college football world from UCF.
Ooh. They actually broke it down in the quarters for Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So the first quarter is LSU and Oklahoma State, both in Austin, Texas, by the way. They got 4 home games to open up the season. How do you get 4
No, they're
games?
at right.
You sure? Because I'm looking, I don't see no at in these
I'm on
first 4 games.
TexasSports.com. I would think that Texas would report their schedule correctly. Says they're at right.
I know the one I'm looking at, all home games.
What website are you on?
I think I'm on.
I mean, just look at the URL.
Actually, I got the image.
Jesus Christ, Darnell. Jesus. But yeah, but either way, it's Rice. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's Rice.
They still in Texas.
It counts.
Then the second quarter at West Virginia. Well, they still in Texas when they play Oklahoma because Dallas is like, what, 2-3 hours.
Yeah, it's a neutral site game, but it's, I mean, both teams are going to travel. Teams are going to travel. It's the Jerry Bowl. They'll travel well. So it's still kind of sort of neutral.
Kansas at TCU. So besides Kansas, the other 3 we're looking at can go either way. And then they have another bye week. Then they finish it off Kansas State, at Iowa State, Baylor, and Texas Tech.
That LSU game is what's going to do it. And the fact that they're playing FBS teams. Now, the CUSA, I don't think they've been in the New Year's Six Bowl yet, but that's okay. It's not some no-name FCS school where it's like it's a money game. No money games when you haven't been in the national championship game as a conference. That's my thing. When I look at Rice and I look at Louisiana Tech, I mean, sure, they might be getting a little something, but it ain't like their programs are about to fold and they just need to schedule like 8 money games to keep the lights on. Like, no, these teams have decent fan bases. These teams have turned out NFL talent. These teams can get like the lower tier recruits to stay in state or to come to them. So, like, I mean, I think Texas has the schedule. Now, the question is, they can't lose to Oklahoma, so who could they drop to? I feel like if they would drop.
You like West Virginia's schedule too.
I mean, well, yeah, because West Virginia is playing AC, yeah. But see, here's the problem. Well, here's the tricky part. I think that if you beat LSU, that puts you over NC State and whoever the hell else I said. I think it was Missouri or something. I think Missouri, the way they are right now, is still an SEC team. But hey, let's not forget, Missouri came out the box hot. They had like 3 straight SEC championship game appearances when they came out the Big 12. But so, I mean,
remember what you said last week. If there's an SEC team on your schedule, be afraid. Be very afraid. And they going to it.
Yeah, so I mean, West Virginia. Now look, I'm just talking about Texas versus Oklahoma in the big picture. West Virginia, however, now here's the thing. Say West Virginia goes on a tear and does the unthinkable. Say West Virginia has one of those typical college football years where one school comes out of nowhere and you wonder like how long it's going to last. Dude, Darnell, West Virginia were to go undefeated. They're going to the playoff easy. Not only would they have to beat a slew of Power 5 opponents in their conference, they would have beat a SEC team on the road, and they would have played. Didn't NC State win double-digit games last year?
NC State was they
won 8 games. Well, hell, they got smoked. They did by Syracuse. But either way, winning record, played in a bowl game against another Power 5 opponent. I mean,
that's the thing you was thinking of when we were going back and forth with NC State.
It is. And sure enough, Syracuse put a 51. But yeah. So now obviously West Virginia, if they go undefeated, the question is, okay, but you gotta play either Alabama or Clemson. Is West Virginia gonna be Alabama or Clemson? Hell nah. The thing is though, with that schedule, if they were to go undefeated, who's gonna have a better schedule and who's gonna be a conference champion? Because that would have to mean that every other conference champion went undefeated, which they're not. And that would have to mean that a one-loss conference champion or a one-loss conference loser that lost in the conference championship game but was undefeated before.
Now, the good thing about the Big 12, everybody in the conference play each other. So all of them.
Yeah, they don't hide from each other with that division stuff like the other conference.
So who's beating who is the question.
It's amazing how we did that, though. They really do play everybody.
They play everybody. So who's beating who?
That's why in the preseason, I think it's reasonable to say that there are 5 contenders. That's within the conference. I think there's, just like the AFC South, I think you're talking about the conference and you're talking about the country. In the conference, there's 5 teams that can win it. The Oklahoma State-Oklahoma game is always good. It's never really one-sided, or at least it doesn't start one-sided. Sometimes it may get out of hand, but I mean, that's when the game is like pretty much over. I think Oklahoma State, because they're always guaranteed to put up at least 35.
You know, Oklahoma State was one stupid 2-point conversion call away from actually beating
That's
Oklahoma.
What I mean. Like, dude, like Oklahoma State is going to get 35. So you have to put Oklahoma State in the conversation just because they're going to put 35 up every game. To blow out Oklahoma State, you're going to have to literally score 60 points. The only team that could do that is really Oklahoma.
And I think that game was in the 60s too, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah, at least the totals were. So, no way, the total was like over 100.
They was going at it. It was like nonstop.
It was ridiculous. Like, it made you wonder who the hell was rushing the passer. Were the offensive lines that good, or were the defenses that bad?
What's my biggest problem with the conference? No freaking defense until West Virginia came in. So
no. And even then, because that 3-3-5, when they play other people, that 3-3-5 goes to hell.
I was gonna get to that. They ended up reverting into a Big 12 team. They had to start scoring 45.
I mean, you know, the 3-3-5 is great for Bruce Irvin, but when you don't have a Bruce Irvin, and you know what the weird thing is? I feel like the Big 12 is always spitting out a pass rusher in the first round. But at the end of the day, I think that's the only way that you can truly play defense in the Big 12. If you don't have a pass rush, just give it up. Because your linebackers ain't going to be able to cover those running backs. And your corners and safeties are basically just on their own. We'll talk about it next week, but I don't blame the NFL and the Arizona Cardinals, God bless their souls, going out and getting a Big 12 quarterback and a Big 12 coach to be the future of their franchise. It's just, how do you just completely suck on the other side of the ball? All of them. How can they all be so bad on defense?
It is what it is. Me personally, I think I'm gonna take Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's Oklahoma until Texas beats them.
The fun fact is Texas beat them last year, but they had a rematch. And
exactly. When I say beat them, I mean win the conference championship game. Because catching a game on Oklahoma, I mean, if you're Oklahoma State, if you're TCU, if you're Kansas State, if you catch a game on Oklahoma, it doesn't matter because you ain't playing in the conference championship game. You count a game on Oklahoma, but did you beat Oklahoma in the big scheme of things? No, because Oklahoma's still going to be the one with the at-large bid.
So far, ACC, Clemson, Big Ten, we giving Harbaugh one more opportunity. And in the Big 12, it's going to be Oklahoma again. Not to mention, you see us to be a Group of 5 leader yet again.
As of right now, we do not have a bracket. I think it's safe to say now that UCF, because they lost to LSU, I think it's safe to say now that like the Group of 5 is forever going to be in the New Year's Six as an at-large, which is why more magazines and podcasts need to start making up a mythical championship, because that's the only way a Group of 5 team is going to win a national title. So hopefully we can, maybe sort of kind of have a bracket.
But guess what, Dallas? We finally get to have some fun next week.
We've been covering all these other teams. Now we're about to be local.
We're going to the best conference there is. And
we opened up with it last year, and we realized that was a mistake because we kept talking about who was going to beat Alabama. And, hey, that doesn't really make good preseason talk when you're just trying to figure out who's going to beat Alabama. So we saved it till last because Clemson might be Alabama. We talked about them first. So, hey. Oh, by
the way, we got a couple of games coming next week, too.
Oh, it's week 0.
Yeah,
buddy.
SEC and previewing Florida, Miami, Arizona, and Hawaii.
Hey, somebody out there give 2 claps for Tate Martell. He sunned himself. It's okay. It happened.
So that will be next week. We'll catch you then. But before we go, Dallas, what's coming on the podcast?
SummerSlam happened and TakeOver happened. Also, Buddy Murphy lied. Daniel Bryan's going to tell us all next week who tried to run over Roman Reigns. I hope they were a very bad man, but I don't think they were. So, yeah, also, we're going to talk about the confusion behind somebody knowing who tried to run you over and you being okay with waiting until next week for them to tell you. That's still weird to me.
And a surprise return happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you should have watched it by now. Even on this tape delay for this podcast, you should know Sasha Banks came back by now. You have to live under a rock or literally only be on Tumblr. And even then, I think people on Tumblr talked about it. Hell, she has it.
So, we'll catch you later.
Fuck the Titans, all that good.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.